There are a number of ways you can name things in your code. Over the years, I've seen hundreds of projects, and bad naming conventions were one of the things I hated the most in them. But are you naming things badly in Swift and SwiftUI? Let's take a look at how to do it properly. And if you want to meet with me on a 60-minute Zoom call, go ahead and check out rebeloper.com/mentoring, where you can meet on a 60-minute Zoom call with me, where I can just talk about SwiftUI, teach you and these naming conventions if you prefer. And also I can take a look at your code, maybe fix some bugs. Go ahead, check out, it's rebeloper.com/mentoring, 60 minutes of Zoom call with yours truly. And today we are going to talk about naming conventions. For that, I have created this project, which is actually a working project. As you can see right over here, I can tap on this button and then I can just go back. Also, the content view back, the default back button also works, and I can type in some text right over there to provide a name. Now, this works as expected. This is what I wanted to build out, but the naming conventions are actually terrible. So while I refactor this project, you will learn all of the good stuff that you should use to have proper naming conventions. And yeah, let's just take a look at what this project has. First of all, we have our app file, we have the navigation stack inside, and that is the content view. We have our content view. It's a mess, as you can already see. We have a detail VC1, if that makes sense to you at all. And then the my text field, stay cased. It's really, really bad formatting. But today we are going to learn all about these bad naming conventions, and then we are going to take it to the next level. We are going to use good naming conventions, meaning in Swift and SwiftUI, how it should be done. Okay, so let's start off with some basic stuff. So for example, here we have the my text field. Now, first of all, you have this camel case. So let's rename this better. So first of all, we want to rename this. So we don't want to use that camel case. Also, we want to have a plus sign here. So you would just use something like my and text field. So again, camel case, my text field. This is how we would just create structs or classes. This is how we name structs and classes. But actually, this is not a good thing to do, because what is my text field? It's actually not descriptive. So instead of my text field, I would just go ahead and rename this to name text field, because actually what we are providing there is our name. So a better way of naming this view is the name text field. And of course, name text field is used inside our content view. So as you can see, we have that struct name cleared around. Really, really nice. But there's also a binding here called text, and it is with a capital T. Now, properties should be named with lowercase letters, so it should start off right just like this. So again, I'm renaming right over here, and yeah, as you can see, it's already taken care of everything. So small t right over there, and let's just rename that, which is really, really great. Now, again, this is okay, but I would also add in here, because right over here, you see we have the name text field, and then we just go text. And this is not really SwiftUI-like. Like the first property should be like an inner property. What I mean by that is inside the name text field, we should create an initializer. So let's create that init. And Xcode 14 is trying to help right over here. It's not doing a great thing, but it's a good start. So right over here, we should have a binding actually. So binding, and that's how we create a string binding. And then we will access our binding with an underscore text equals our text. Also, what I was talking about, the inner and outer properties, well, we want to have an outer property of underscore and an inner property of this text right over there. Okay, so now when we are initializing it, instead of our text, so let's just, well, actually, it's just going to fix it. It's just going to remove the text property. And this looks much, much better. So it's more SwiftUI-like. Okay, so let's just take a look at this. Yeah, everything seems to be okay right over here. But Yeah, so let's just see. Yeah, this is fine. This is the name text field, around it bordered text field. Okay, so let's take a look at our detail VC1. Well, first of all, you shouldn't name detail VC with small caps. So let's rename that to be capital. That's our first thing. What we actually did with the name text field also. So let's have that with a capital D. And what is this VC? Well, it kind of comes from UIKit. Again, inside also UIKit, this is a bad naming convention. Like VC is kind of for view controller. Well, you should definitely write that out. It should be readable. Don't abbreviate. And one, like 1, 2, 3, what's that even mean? So is it, one in a row, or is the first, or yeah, it doesn't make any sense for a newcomer. So what I will just do is rename again and remove the VC, like view controller. We don't have any view controllers here, and also the one. So what should we add instead of our VC1? Because now, as you can see, we have detail. But what detail? Well, if you're creating a view, then it should be detail view, just like that. So with a capital V, of course. And this is much, much more readable, and it says what it is. So it is a detail view. Okay, so what's going on in this detail view? Well, we have an environment calling the dismiss key path. And as you can see, we have also a button that's going back. And maybe if you were trying to go back, as you can see, it has this text of back for our button. You would name this property as back, but it's so you shouldn't name it back, because this is actually referring to the dismiss key path. So it's a better thing to do to name this instead of back. You should name this dismiss. Okay, so I think that we are done with this file. This is really, really great. We are dismissing this view with that environment. So let's move on to the content view, where we have a lot of stuff going on. This is the bulk of our application, and there are a lot of naming bad habits right over here. So let's start off by refactoring some obvious things. And if you take a look at this file, it's all over the place, of course. So first of all, I would just have the import all the way to the top. Now, why did I add this as an example? Well, in some cases, the import of SWIFTUI or UIKit or whatever, when you are creating this file, by default is there. But some developers tend to add in new imports down below. So don't do that. It's counterproductive. Nobody will bother to scroll down to see wherever you imported some new module. So let's just move this all the way to the top right over there. Okay, so, build has failed. Yeah, I just hit Command B instead of Command V. Okay, so one other thing, again, according to arrangement of our file, you have this miscellaneous right over there. So all of the properties should not be at the end of our struct, but it should be right before our body. This is a common use of laying out our properties. Developers kind of expect this at the top and not at the bottom. Okay, so also our initializer, we should just move that not at the bottom, so from the bottom all the way up below our properties. Okay, so that kind of makes sense right over here. We have our content view, and then inside there, this is nice. So let's take a look at the particular issues that we have right over here. So first thing is this line, like misc. So what is this anyway? Is it miscellaneous, or what? Why is it? Why do we need this? Are these miscellaneous? Well, no, they are properties. So this is bad naming conventions, because first of all, you want to maybe set it as marked. So mark, and then instead of miscellaneous, you just want to say properties, something like that. Okay, so now we have our properties. Now the next line, of course, you want to name your properties properly. So it's not T for, we're having now our text right over here under the text field. No, I know this is short and you kind of want to be short, but please, please, please do write out descriptive property name. So basically, this actually shouldn't be a text. This should be name, because we are accessing the name inside the name text field. So let me just rename this also to name. There we go. Okay, and now as you can see, when I'm renaming, it's kind of making sense on the other parts of the code also. Okay, so what else do we have wrong in this line of code? Well, in SwiftUI, state variables should be set property, so we cannot initialize them well, whenever we have our content view initialized. So this should be private. And also, yeah, it should not be accessible from outside. Okay, so state private var name equals an empty string. This is how it should be done. Okay, now what about this private var nav title equals content? Okay, so first of all, don't abbreviate. This should be navigation title. So let's rename that. Let's just go navigation title. There we go. And while we are here, also on the initializer, let's just see if we can just refactor this, edit all in scope. Well, I'm just going to copy this out and just paste it to the right places. Navigation title, and I believe we have also that issue right over there, as you can see. So when I create this content view nav title, it's kind of confusing. What is nav? It's navigation title. Okay, but as you can see right over here, we have our navigation title set default to content, and then right over here I just set it to content view. Well, actually this is all bad. You should not initialize insider properties from outside your content view. This is coming from outside the content view. If you want to manipulate data inside SwiftUI, you should use observable objects. So what I'm going to do, yeah, this is the outcome that I want to see, nothing more. And therefore, I can just simply not use this. So there we go. And of course, then we don't really need this. And because we already gave our variable default value, then we don't need the initializer. Also, it's a bad habit to add initializers inside SwiftUI views, because the views will be deconstructed and reconstructed randomly according to SwiftUI, the framework's will. And what's inside the initializer will be executed then. So we have this content then. So, okay, we have the navigation title set to content. But again, this is also a bad practice in SwiftUI. Why do you want to set it right over here? It's just simpler and easier to just move this. So let's just copy this out and paste it in there. We have our content. Now, if you were arguing that, okay, I want to change the navigation title, then you would need to create this navigation title as a private state object, which actually wasn't the case. Okay, so that's how I would refactor that code. As you can see, I removed a lot of code, but that's fine. Less code, readable code is always better. Now, the next in line is this environment of managed object context. Now, we are not using core data in this particular project, but if we were, this is how you would just access the managed object context from core data. And what you have here is, again, a naming convention done badly. And I see this quite a lot because we want to abbreviate and MOC for managed object context. Please don't do that. Let's just name this managed object context, please. It is what it is, so just name it like it is. And we're not going to use core data in this project, but for the example, I'm just going to leave it in. Okay, so let's move forward. What do we have right over here? Well, we have our if name is not equals empty string, then show the name, otherwise show this text of provider name. Well, first of all, again, it's in the naming conventions here with this text. This is a string value, so you don't want to interpolate it inside another string. So you just go and have a name right over here because it's a string. So it's really nice. So now we have a much less cluttered line of code. Also, we have an if-else statement right over here that we could just have it like so. So this is a text and also this is a text. So in this case, we could just use a ternary operator just like this. So I'm just going to type it out. So first of all, we want to know if the name is not equal to an empty string. So let's just copy that out and paste it in there. So if that is true, then we want to have this as our name. So again, string interpolation right over here, we are going to use the name. Otherwise, so we have this, otherwise we have this colon. We want to have provide a name. There we go. Let's just copy that out, provide a name. And we can just remove this if-else statement. Now, it's a one-liner. It's much easier to read, really nice. Also, we can do this even better. So not equals empty string where there's is empty. So is empty. So we are going to check if it's not empty. So if it's not empty, then use the name. Otherwise, provide a name. And it's much readable, really nice. Okay, so we talked about the name text field and we covered it all. Next up is this go to detail VC. Okay, you know, we changed the detail VC1. And so what we want to do is just use this. Actually, this is an extraction of a view inside a function. So how should we name this? Because first of all, we have this capital G, which is not nice because this is a function. It should be lowercase as it's starting. And then again, the VC should be removed. So let's rename this. Let's right click and rename. Again, let's just wait for Xcode there. And then we just go to detail view. Okay, so this is a go to detail view, which is okay because this, you know, we are going to the detail view, but this is kind of a verb. So we want to make this a view. In order to make it a view, we want to take a look at what's inside this function that's returning a view. And by the way, it is saying that go to detail view, but it's actually not the detail view that we are presenting right over here. It's a navigation link. So what I propose is just rename this again to detail view. Let's just do that. Detail view navigation link. So with the small d, this is the detail view navigation link because it's a navigation link and it's going to go to the detail view. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Well, while we are at the detail view navigation link, let's just take care of that because I can see a lot of issues right over here. So first of all, we have a title of button. Well, this isn't descriptive, it's just a simple button, which is bad. So we should just say something like detail view or whatever fits well for your actual project. It must convey where we are navigating to. In my case, it's simple, it's just a detail view. And also I see this quite a lot. You want to be smart and then just, you know, just write everything in one line and no spaces between these characters. It's not good. Just use the usual auto-completion. And what that will give you is actually not even this, it's even more. So I just added those spaces in. It's even more. It's just going to be just like this. This is much more SwiftUI-like. It's much more readable. And yeah, don't be smart just because you want to present everything in just one line. Okay, so that takes care of this function. Let's take a look at this is bordered. Well, first of all, again, this is going to return a view. It's a view modifier. We want to rename this for the I should be small caps. Okay, so that is border, but what does this is border do actually? So, well, it's just giving us a button style of bordered prominent. So most probably you already know that the navigation link can also have a button style. So this is what this expansion does. And but is bordered, but first of all it's not bordered, it's bordered prominent, so we just have that also added. So is bordered prominent, there we go. And by the way, it is bordered prominent. It's a question that should be used in if statements, or like we have it right over here in ternary operators. So what we should add in here is remove the is, actually not add but remove. Let's rename that again. So this should be well, actually we are typing here, so this should be bordered prominent. And basically that's it. Maybe you just want to add a border prominent button style, maybe, but border prominent, it's quite enough for our case right over here. Now again, let's take a look at our extension right over here. Well, it's returning self button style. We can safely remove the return from there because we are just returning one thing, and then it's just assumed that return is there, which is really great. And also, this is an extension. So I do understand that you maybe want to use this only in this file and you just set it to file private. But then why do you want to create it as an extension? Well, because I presume that you want to use this throughout your application, then I'm going to remove the file private from there, just like this. If I could just select that and remove that. So now I can just use this throughout my applications, which is, you know, better. And basically that's it. Now we can just build and run our project, and let's see. We have kind of the same, well, actually on the content, let's just have this content view. And let's see what have changed. So first of all, we have this content view. That's fine. Provide a name. We can just provide our name. Then we have the detail view. So we know that we are going to the detail view. So when tapping on this navigation link, we are going to be taken there. Content fold, back. That's perfectly fine. So the application works as previously, but now, as you can see, we changed quite a lot. And along the way, you learn really helpful naming conventions that you should definitely use when you are writing Swift or SwiftUI code. And if you do want to learn about the best side hustles that you can have as a developer, go ahead and check out the video. It's right over here.